I'd just like to say my name's John Shepherd, and I'm the Head of Programs and Funding at Frank Water. And I'd like to also introduce a friend and colleague over many years, actually, Anita Sharma, who's the Project Manager at CBED. Anita, thank you for joining us this morning. And
thank you.
I think we're going to hand over to you initially to just give us a bit of background and a bit of presentation on what amazing work's been happening with CBED. So over to you.
All right. So should I share my screen?
I think that would be good. Yeah, superb. Yeah, thank you.
Can you see my screen? Is it visible?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Super.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So we are working on community-based initiative for sustainable water security. Basically, there are springs which are there in the Indian Himalayan region, and there is recently, during the last 1 decade, we have noticed that there's water scarcity, especially during the summers. And so, because there are no other alternate sources of water for these communities, we are working on sustainable water security, providing sustainable water to the communities living in the Indian Himalayan region. So I'll quickly take you through the Indian Himalayan states. This is the entire belt of the Indian Himalayan region, where there are 13 states, and we are working in 2 of them, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So if we look at these 2 states, this is the district map of Uttarakhand, and this is the one in Himachal Pradesh. In Uttarakhand, we have worked in 3 districts. We had started off with Chamoli in 2022. Then we moved down to Almora, and since the last 2 years, we are in Rudraprayag district of Uttarakhand. This year, we are also in the Sirmaur district of Himachal Pradesh. So that's about the location of these 2 districts. So overall, in these 2 states, we have revived so far 49 springs with the support of Frank Water, and out of which 39 were done with CBED organization. So looking at the Himalayas, we all know that Himalayas are quite vulnerable to climate change impacts, and the glaciers are receding. These are all very common indicators of climate change, and the rainfall pattern is also changing in the Indian Himalayan states. It's all common, but what do the people notice? What are the people's perceptions on the indicators of climate change in their areas? I think this is also important to talk about, not just scientifically, but also taking into account how the people take these changes. Because after all, when we are working with the communities in that region, it is important to understand and learn and also feel what are their perceptions, what are their thinkings, and then try to merge what our ideas are and what they are looking for, what kind of challenges they are facing, so that we can best come up with the solutions to help out these communities. So they have noticed that the winters have become warmer, and there has been a rise in the weather events, cloudbursts, hailstorms, forest fires have also increased. And interestingly, what they are saying is that now the beehives and spider webs and bird nests of some of the common varieties of these insects and birds are no longer seen. And even for common herbs, now earlier they used to fetch the herbs from the forest area for common ailments. Now these are also becoming very scarce. In fact, small animal species like squirrels and other canines, they are rarely spotted now. So this is how they are trying to. And also one more thing, that some of the flowers which used to bloom in springs or in summer, they are blooming earlier now. So the winter period is shorter, winters are warmer, and it is somehow impacting their water resources. It is impacting their agricultural land. It has also impacted their soil fertility because everything is interlinked. Everything is interlinked with nature. So these are their perceptions on climate change. So, what we see is that on the ground, we are noticing that this climate change is impacting their water resources. Now, these are the natural springs. On the left-hand side, you see is water oozing out from crevices in the rock. And in the lower bottom, you see water oozing out from the ground. So these are two types of water bodies that we have in Uttarakhand, and in both the pictures you can see that the especially in the pictures in the bottom, that they have all dried up. As per the Niti Aayog report, also Government of India, 50% of the springs in the entire Indian Himalayan belt, it has got dried up, or this these have become seasonal, leading to water shortages in many of the Indian Himalayan states. So, now to address these challenges, the Government of India introduced Jal Jeevan Mission in 2019, to provide a functional tap water supply to every household, especially in the rural areas. Now, this has achieved significant milestones in improving the water accessibility, but still there are several challenges, especially in the hilly areas. As you can see in the photograph here, there are geographical constraints, there are climatic barriers as well, like landslides, or too much rainfall, or there is water pressure also, because of which the water pump is not able to to fill up the overhead tanks over there. So there are several problems. Ultimately, the communities have to depend on the traditional water sources, which are the springs. So what we can do about it? Now, the only option is to work more directly with the natural processes to revive the spring, because anything alien brought to this area, which is still a very natural place. People are also very simple. If we bring in something very sophisticated, people will not accept it, and it will be difficult to operate or maintain also that particular thing. So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to capture the rainwater. We are trying to capture the rainwater over there, and this approach is based on hydrogeological studies that we conduct, basically to find out what is the best area where which is the recharge area for that particular spring which we are trying to revive. And then we do some interventions, like you can see in this picture. The women, they dig the trenches of different sizes depending on the slope and availability of land. We also do some assessment of water demand and supply gap, to have an idea about how much is the water scarcity and how much needs to be filled in. And basis that, the number of trenches and the pits and the sizes are decided, and the communities themselves work on it to have these structures ready before the monsoon. So by before mid of June, we are ready with these structures and wait for the rainfall. Now on the right hand side, you can see a trench filled with rainwater. So this is how the rainwater is, captured, and slowly it infiltrates the groundwater and recharges the spring aquifer in the ground. And when the aquifer gets filled, more water oozes out from either the rock crevices or from the bottom, and that's how we are able to increase the spring discharge. So you see here in the graph, we can this is just an example of the hydrogeological cross section of one of the springs in Rudraprayag, and the hydrograph, which clearly shows that when we this is an 18-month period graph, and we see that the intervention was done in April 2023, and after that the base flows have increased. Even when there is no rainfall, there is still water in the spring. And apart from that, we see that the infiltration capacity has increased after the interventions. Earlier, even though the rainfall was almost same in July 23 and in July 24. The water that had infiltrated earlier was less than now, which means that there is more infiltration, therefore impacting the spring discharge. So we get higher discharge levels. So this is basically the science behind it. And the communities are made to understand this in a very simple way, with which they can comprehend why they are doing and what they are doing. The entire work supports SDG 6, 13, and 15, right? So this is the background. This is why we are doing and how it is benefiting us and all that. Now, looking at the benefits, you see, now you must have understood that it is enhancing the groundwater recharge, and there will be more water available even during the lean season. There will be better, vegetation growth. There will be surplus for minor irrigation as well, and also it will reduce the surface runoff, and hence it can be helpful in lowering the risk of flash floods in that area. If we do it properly, it can help in reducing the risk of flash flood. And besides that, the most important thing is that it empowers the communities with the knowledge and tools to manage their own water resources. They learn everything, and that's how they adapt to the climate change. So you see here, these are some of the pictures of the communities where we are working. This is all Uttarakhand, and again, these are the pictures of the women who are discussing and meeting every month. They sit and discuss. So you can. This is just to give you an idea about what sort of communities we are working with, and they are trained in even measuring the spring discharge. I'll just run this one particular video for you. So they are trained in they are given proper training in measuring the spring discharge and even the basic parameters of water quality. So this is how they are trained. Now that's about what work we are doing. Now talking about the recent cloudburst for which we are meeting today. So this happened in one of the villages, Bakola, this year on 28th of August. And these are the two videos that I received from the one of our community members in Bakola village. There was a cloudburst. You can see the forest area over here. There was a cloudburst in this forest, and this cloudburst impacted our project village Bakola, where whatever work we had done, that all got damaged. You can see just this video. So you see, this cloudburst affected not just the village but also the recharge area. Ah, so this cloudburst, not just impacted the the fields of the people, these were paddy fields, they all got damaged. The trenching work that we had done in this village, we have two springs, and more than 1,300 pits were dug by the women before the onset of monsoon. 50% of the pits have got damaged, and the entire area has got, that landslide has taken away that entire area. Then we had done some plantation also. 500 plant saplings have also got affected. We also checked, with the villages we had done last year in Rudraprayag, and even in last year villages, in one village, around 200 trenches have got destroyed. Cow sheds have got destroyed. Has been a loss of domestic animals and also their agricultural land. So all that has happened in our project site, uh, uh, Rudraprayag. Now, this was not the end. Cloudburst happened on 15th of September in Dehradun as well. Although we are not working in Dehradun, but our main CBED office is in Dehradun, and you can see in just one short clipping how even in Dehradun there was massive cloudburst on 15th of September, and in several areas the damages and all that. So you see, this way we have series of cloudbursts this year. It has actually started off with it had actually started off with Uttarkashi, then it happened in Chamoli, then in Rudraprayag, several of them. Then it happened in Dehradun again, and it happened in Chamoli. Last week it happened in West Bengal, Kolkata. These are some of the photographs and also the videos you may watch later. You may watch these videos later. So the question is that, is it all man-made or made in heaven? Like, should the climate be changing so fast and so strangely? That's the question that now many of the experts are asking. Some experts are saying that, is my screen being shared or what?
Yes, absolutely, perfectly. Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. So some experts are saying that, this is climate change, this is climate change, but we are listening about climate change since the last so many years, and all of a sudden it cannot happen. Although climate change is not restricted to one particular nation, anything done anywhere in the globe, the nearest neighboring countries get affected by it. But how come this Southeast Asian countries, and especially our country, and also some other, like recently, a few days ago, we heard about a cyclone in Philippines, and then in America, coastal regions, and then mostly it is coming down to India, right? Some are also saying that it is the La Nino effect this year. So La Nino, if there is La Nino any year, then there are more rains, right? And on the other side of the globe, there is more drier period. So they are saying probably it is the La Nino effect in this region, and that's why you are having this. But I have come across some reports, and which are also pointing at some kind of man-made intervention, some man-made intervention. Why this man-made intervention? Because you see here, uh, Himachal Pradesh itself. We have only talked about Uttarakhand, but we are working also in Himachal Pradesh. So I do not have here, yeah, I haven't put videos of Himachal Pradesh, but Himachal Pradesh reported 45 cloudbursts and 95 flash floods this year. Punjab got 75% more rainfall than it does annually. Just in 1 month, it got 75% more rainfall. And this flooding was compared to the great floods that had happened in 1988. Okay, 1988. So, India had another interesting fact is that India had the rainiest June and second wettest monsoon in the in the past 50 years this year, with 37% surplus rainfall. So, some experts are saying that there are some high-tech neighboring countries probably, and there are evidences proving that. I have given you a link of that news. And so there are weather control systems which are operating and so on and so forth. So whatever is happening, whatever is the geopolitics, our only concern is that we are working with the at the grassroots level for the communities, right? Whatever it is the community, especially the vulnerable sections of the society, which are impacted the most. They are impacted the most. And now, Frankwater, with Frankwater, we are working on something really, which is the need of the hour. Climate is changing, there are water shortages, communities are desperate, government's interventions are still going on. It's not yet completed. So what will the communities do? This is something really, very few organizations come forward to support for the work like this, right? We are very grateful to Frank Porter for supporting this initiative in our country, especially in the such vulnerable localities in the Indian Himalayan states. Now, talking about that, there are some coping mechanisms now that what the people are thinking now. It's just a month ago we had this disaster. So I just tried to interact with some of the women. Now they are saying that usually we go by a traditional knowledge. We avoid building houses below the hilltops or near the streams or near the water channels. And even if we have to do that, we make sure that we are creating a pond with the outlet, so that even if there is more pour of rainfall, the water will not cause landslide. The water will just get diverted through the water channel. That's how they are surviving, because this is not the first time. Actually, 2013 also we had, but it was in Mandakini River, the other area. But this is the first instance which was all of a sudden, and nobody was prepared for this, right? In our village, Bakola, where this cloudburst took place, the people rather expressed relief. My question was that how upset you are with what you should have got and what the government should have done. So the people are saying, the first thing that they are saying, we are rather happy that our lives are saved. We know how challenging it is to work in this particular area, to stay in this particular area. We are also looking at what the government is trying to provide to us, what all services, what all facilities the government is trying to provide to us. And but we are not able to understand this nature's fury. So the first response, what they are thinking of is that they say that we will migrate to other places during the rainy season now, from now on. Some of the people who have piece of land, some other place, they are saying that now we have decided that during rainy season, 2-3 months, we will migrate and then come back. So this is how they are thinking of that. That's the first relief measure that they're thinking for themselves. We still have to come up with something that we can think of, since our presence is there. The Frank Water team is working in other areas also. How best we can integrate the coping mechanisms with what kind of work we are doing, considering the vulnerabilities in that area, and considering our mission, the project mission of providing wash and safe drinking water, how this particular thing can be integrated into it, so that we avoid maximum possible risks and challenges and help out the people. So now it's open for discussion. it's open for discussion. Thank you.
Superb, Anita. That's really brilliant run through of not only the work that's been happening there, but mostly also what is the problem and the issue happening there. So, can you talk a little bit about how you feel there is, how is it possible for an NGO like CBED to manage that with communities and also with funders? Because
Right.
communities themselves, we need to keep motivated, but also funders themselves. How do we
Yes.
motivate people to support work that is then set back so badly by climate change, or certainly just by unusual water patterns and weather patterns? So over to you on
See,
how we keep
first thing is that, see, we have to be, this is something we need to learn from this.
yeah,
Like if NGOs like CBED or funding agencies like Frank Water, if our mission is to work with the marginalized communities, and especially in this particular region where there are challenges, several climatic challenges, regional challenges are there, right?
yeah,
So we have to be prepared for any such vulnerability. Whatever we agree upon, it should include this, right? Because we saw last year also when I told you about the tunnel effect.
yep,
That was basically developmental, but this is more climatic impact that we are seeing. And so from next year onwards, whichever organization Frankfurter wants to work with, you can have your own protocols developed around it. Like in the last meeting, I requested you to make use of unspent funding to help out the Bakola village trenches once again.
yes,
So we are thinking of, making the women construct the 50% loss. So you agreed for that, and we are very thankful to you. And I have communicated this to Bakola village women also, and they are very happy. So not all funding agencies would come forward like this. I've seen examples where Frankfurter has also been there with us in a very, very remote locality like Dhar, where no funding agency wanted to work there, but Frankfurter, uh, without even looking at what we are doing and how we are going to take it, they were ready to help us out. And we worked there for more than 10 years. Similarly here, and for us, for us also, it's a lesson that if we are engaging with the funding agency, we will also give them this example and make sure that they are open to accepting any such sort of challenges and open to providing us any sort of help, that we may require in case there is an emergency situation like this. Secondly, I would like to say that we should have a component of creating awareness around other challenging situations as well in this. Like there could be landslide event. So if there is landslide, what you need to do, how best you can make use of agricultural, and what are the best practices they can use to increase their agricultural production, maybe. Because with food is we are definitely having with water we are definitely having the food insecurities as well. you know Frankfurt is not working on it, but couple of years from now we are going to have food shortages, because food is related with water, like agriculture is related with water. So can we do little bit on that part also? Not spending much, but whichever areas we are working on, obviously these communities, they have their agricultural lands, and they are basically dependent on their own agricultural fields for their food requirements. Hardly anything they sell, it's all for their own needs. They are dependent. So how best we can help them in increasing their agricultural production with best practices, at least that we can. And that goes with our water work also, because that is the best use of water. How with the water surplus that we are creating by reviving the springs, which they are using for their minor irrigation, how that quantity can be used for to enhance their agriculture. Like some sort of awareness, maybe one module can be introduced for that. One module can be introduced for creating more awareness and making them prepared for any sort of risk. We can also tie up with the local agencies like disaster mitigation cell in the region, maybe call one of the officers to our area to talk about what the immediate measures you should take. Normally what the villagers do, they start whistling. If they are on the hilltop and they see something happening down, they start whistling so that they can communicate with the people living down the hill. That's the only thing they are doing. So is it something else that we can think of, so that immediately it can be communicated that, oh, there is a landslide, there's a cloudburst happening, run away from here. You may have seen the Tharali video also, right? So what are the other mechanisms that can be used? We can ask for the disasters officers to come over and give a talk over there, so that little few things, like we introduced the convergence thing. Similarly, this also should be introduced. It's only my suggestion.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And maybe you could talk about what we've been doing, just for the people who maybe are listening in on this. We've been working together for about 10 years, haven't we, Anita? Maybe more.
Yes.
And through that time, we've been using a couple of approaches, one of which is a systems thinking approach, which hopefully you can come on to now, which is around how do we use existing systems rather than inventing new ones. And the other is around this idea of kind of iterative adaptation, which in normal English means that we see what the small problems are and we change things based on that. And that's been very much our approach, which is around the idea of letting communities build a dynamic rather than a UK-based NGO telling people and local communities, or even Anita, how they think projects should be run. However, there are risks for funders in that, which is why it's
Yes.
which is why Frank Water is a very unusual funder, because this is known to be the best way to work, but it does have risks. And I think here is an example of that. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit around convergence and what you mean by that, leveraging and convergence, and why you think that's a good way of us working together.
The government of India is coming up with several flagship programs, especially for, it is concerning everything, be it water, livelihoods, or for their, to pay for their labor work like MG Narega, and several schemes are already floating. So if we are working on a particular project like the water project, so government scheme is the Jal Jeevan Mission. And if we find that dysfunctional, there is some issue, some repair work has to be done, or the motor pump has to be replaced, what we can do is, when we set up the water committees at the village level, so that they can be more responsible for whatever is going on in the village, we empowered them, right? So these village committees then are trained to write a request letter and hand over that request letter to the village head, who's called the Gram Pradhan or the Sarpanch. Now, the Gram Pradhan receives that request. He gets to know where, in which particular habitation, there is a repair work required, where what is required. And then that request letter goes to the concerned department. And those people, they get to know, just because it is coming from the panchayat, which is the lower level legal entity as far as the government departments are concerned, so it is accepted. And as per the available funding and as per the work required, the funds are sanctioned and the work is done. So this is what we call convergence. We are there just to facilitate the work. And all the work is done through the committees that we set up, local, level legal entities which are attached with the Panchayati Raj institutions. That is what we do. And it has worked well in Dhar.
Superb. And why would you say that's different to a traditional way of working? And once you've answered that question, I'll throw it open to the Frank Water team if you guys have got any other
Yes.
questions. But yeah,
So
why is that different? Yeah, why is that different to
traditional
what
way of
normal NGOs would do? Yeah.
Okay, traditional way of working is that in traditional way, the funders are overburdened. They have to allocate more funds for something for which already there is funding available with the government of India. But if we are doing like this, indirectly, we are working aligned with what the government is trying to do. So government also does not feel that some agency from abroad is coming and intervening where we are already doing. That fussiness is not there. It is as if we are trying to work in alignment with what the government is doing, right? So this is rather supportive to the government's initiatives, right? We are just facilitating, right?
Yeah, superb. And again, I think there's a lot of conversation, certainly in Europe, around this idea of how we're reimagining development to be way more even in our relationships. And I think this is a great example of that, which is around people at a local level saying how development should happen, and that funders really trying to help and facilitate that in a way which really leaves a lot of the decision making at a local level. But that's always been a balance, hasn't it, within the international development sector? And that's really what we've been doing at FRAG to try and drive that forward. You know, unfortunately, there's some organisations like FRAG that have to take the risk to try this new way of working and see how it can be more impactful than simply taking money from the UK and buying infrastructure in other countries, which really actually disempowers local decision making. Over to anyone else at Frank for questions. Otherwise, myself and Anita could talk forever and have had very lengthy conversations over the last 10 years. Lizzie, you've got a hand raised, so over to you.
Hi, Anita. Thank you so much. That was so interesting, really, really fascinating and really helpful for us to better understand the situation. One question that I've heard from a few funders is, well, if there's so much flooding now in the area, then surely there shouldn't be a problem with drought and with lack of water. And surely there should be other ways to hold on to that water. But I think it's helpful to understand that through digging the trenches, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to retain the water that does come from rainfall. But because half of these trenches have now been destroyed because of the cloudburst, are there any other plans now to try other innovative ways to retain the water from this unprecedented amount of rainfall, perhaps?
Yes, so in see, this cloudburst has happened in one of our villages where 50% of the trenches have got destroyed. When we say that there is cloudburst, the velocity of the water is so much that it just flows down, the rate of runoff is very high. Whereas if the water has to percolate down, it has to be at a slope. It needs time to stay there for some time, then only it will percolate down, because it's not a plain area, right? These are hills and there are rocks, and the groundwater aquifers are below, deep down. So only when through the crevices of the rocks, the water will seep down slowly, slowly, it will fill up the aquifer down there. It takes time. And in order to give it time, we have these structures which hold the water and allow water that time, that much time, so that it can percolate down. When there are floods, it naturally will not get any time to go down. So obviously the aquifers will remain empty. Even if there is cloudburst, it will remain empty. Your second question, what are the other alternatives? Yes. In our other project site in the Indian Himalayan state, we are also thinking of coming up with models for rainwater harvesting, tanks where, a group of 4 or 5 households can have a common rainwater tank. That is also easy, and the government has several schemes to support in some way, because government is keen to provide water to all the villagers. So this is also one of the things. It is coming up with solar schemes also. So if we need motor pumps somewhere, that is also there. Then apart from that, we can have the storage tanks, open geo tanks, which can hold a lot of water, and that too can help in percolation of water in the underground, right? There can be small ponds. Large ponds are not possible. There can be small ponds. There can be this. And also some people who are living there since the last several years, they say that there should be more plantation, because if there are mature trees, they help in reducing such risks. They act like barriers. But because a lot of deforestation has taken place, so these events are happening more. When we are doing the spring revival work, since the last 2 years, we have introduced plantation work as well. This is not just a soil and water conservation, but also to make the people aware of this thing, that wherever you see patches, please plant more and more trees. We help them in our project sites, but then more of this should be done, because this is the best way to address climate change impacts, because it will control your temperature, it will slow down your surface runoff, there will be more vegetation, more moisture in the soil, everything controlled.
Thank you. Anita, just on that quick note before Pravina jumps in. So on that note, have you seen a big increase in temperature alongside the increase in rainfall?
Yes, I talked about the people's perceptions, but for actual records of temperatures, we will have to make use of the IMD data. I do not have the IMD data.
Thank you, Lizzie. Great question. Pravina, over to you.
Yeah, I was about to add to what Anita was saying regarding our need for vegetation. So if you have a lot more vegetation, Himalayas being very young mountains, they are loosely held soils and stones. So the minute you have a lot more vegetation, the tree roots actually act like fences and nets that hold the soil back, and also ensure that water, when there is cloudburst also, they are absorbed in the soil, because the soil is a lot more like a sponge that can take up the water, rather than the soil suddenly getting into shock and acting like a marble on which the water just gushes through. So,
Hmm.
vegetation in terms of trees, in terms of various grass systems that are relevant to the region, Himalayan region, will be very useful. Like,
Very good.
yeah, like vetiver is one kind of grass, like we've seen in Assam also, like a lot of rivers. Assam, like if you saw the Himalayan maps, one of the northeastern states where the Himalayas go is also called Assam. In that region, a lot of experimentations are going on and using the grass systems, because the grass systems actually have the ability to go 3 to 4 feet below ground, like a mesh, and hold the entire, uh, you know, uh, soil from eroding and sliding into the river and silting off and going away. So, and I think in some of the past works that we have worked in Dhar also, Anita, we have used vegetation. Remember, the villagers used to plant
Are we
trees
used vegetation? Yes, Pravina,
along
you're
with,
very much right.
yeah, along with trenches and other uh, physical work. We did vegetation there also, right? So
Yes.
similar
And
thing is something that we can. I think you're suggesting we'll do something similar in Himalayas also.
yeah,
I stop here.
this year we have planted napiers. If you remember the videos, napier
Ah,
sticks were
yeah, yeah,
planted, they've
yeah.
grown very well.
Mm.
Napier, vetiver, similar varieties, right? So we
Yes,
have done that.
yes, yeah.
And
And
just
Napier is
one
also very good fodder for the animals.
fodder,
That
very good for fodder. And one more thing, that the first cloudburst that happened in Tharali, basically people and the other experts are saying that they were the oak forest, which was cut down many years ago, and because of that incidents, the cloudburst impacts took place in Tharali, right? So vegetation is a great natural barrier to avoid such risks in the Himalayan, in the hilly areas, any hilly area, not just Himalayan hilly area.
We've only got 5 minutes or a few minutes left, but what I'm reflecting on here is really that maybe in the last time this happened was in the 1980s, and at that point we had a very simple way of looking at how poorer communities could be helped. And that was around a simple idea of charities in Britain raising money and then spending the money overseas on infrastructure generally, and just doing that infrastructure in place and reporting back to their donors. And we realized that that wasn't really sustainable, because whenever things happened, we didn't really have a holistic way of looking at it. But now we're in a world where you can see over the last hour's conversation how complicated water management is. We're starting to talk about engaging with government, how they are funding things. We're starting to talk about infrastructure projects. We're starting to talk about tree planting. We're talking about hydrology, civil engineering. It's become much more complicated. And that's a good thing because it means we're solving the problem, but it's also more complicated for people to support. And I wonder whether you feel, Anita, there's been a lot of change in funding recently. So I just wanted to finish by your thoughts about the future of CBED's work, and how you think funders can support this, and why you think people should support this work, maybe, is my simple question to finish off.
So one thing is that the water, drinking water issues, and this is going to remain because considering the erratic rainfall patterns and climate changes. Second, government is still working on providing households with 100% functional tap water supplies, because here the problems are more. There are more challenging regions. Will take some more time. So organizations like us need to work on both aspects, revive the traditional and also try to fix the government's supply systems through convergence and all that, as we are doing in one of our project sites we are doing. And also come up with alternatives, like Lizzie was asking me, and I told her about the rainwater harvesting structures, and also the storage tanks that we are thinking of constructing over there, right? So these are, some of the funding agency are definitely thinking of this, because government's own report, the Niti Aayog report, has mentioned that more than 50% of the springs have already dried, right? And that's a huge number. And what the remaining are becoming seasonal, right? So it's time that we work on this. Earlier I had suggested that not only this, we should also look at some of the other ways our ancestors used to make sure that the water bodies remain alive, and they used to have special patches of forest which they used to consider as the large recharge areas for the springs, and these were called sacred groves, and they were maintained. We still have some, but lot many are diminishing. Why not have that part also in frank water projects? Like identify them, related with what work we are doing, let the communities know about it, raise voice about it, let there be more awareness of this traditional ways also, traditional knowledge, and how we can work. You don't need to spend money on such things, but if we have this as some of the activities which can be taken up in suitable months, not all months, where we have the wet periods, maybe we can use it to create awareness about these things. I think it will work.
Superb, Anita. And also, at the moment, we're just designing a piece of research, aren't we, with Arup, actually, the global engineering company,
Yes.
looking at nature-based solutions and how they can be quantified. And that's so interesting to me, that we would look back at traditional, sometimes even ancient ways of looking at nature-based solutions, as we might call it now. And the fact that we've lost some of these traditional ideas of, let's be honest, it was hydrology, wasn't it? It was using trees.
Yes, it was hydrology.
In the modern world, we call it nature-based solutions and hydrological interventions. In the old days, they might call it a sacred glade, but actually it was the same thing. So from my point of view, I think we're going to have to wrap this call up now, because we're on the call of the hour. But from my point of view, it just feels so interesting yet again to talk to you, Anita, around all these issues, really, around the idea of how is climate change actually impacting on the poorest communities in the Himalayas. How are we looking at the most modern techniques in hydrology, geohydrology, nature-based solutions, but then also how are we making sure that that is embedded in local decision making, and sometimes using traditional or ancient knowledge there. Just really, really interesting to talk to you again. Anybody who's watching this video, I'd be also encouraging you to get involved. As I say, there's lots of research happening around this with people like Arup and Bristol University and others. And if you're watching this and you're a funder, I hope that what you've heard over the last hour will encourage you to support this work into the future. So again, I just want to wrap up by saying thanks to the Frank Water team for joining us today.
Thank you.
Most importantly, Anita, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us some good background on what's happening here.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share whatever issues are there. Thank you.
Thank you. See you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.